All right, good afternoon, guys. So today we'll talk about fixed income securities. Okay. Now, when we talk about fixed income securities, this is the other side of equity. Okay, this is the other side of equity. Now, what do I mean by this? Is that when we talked about equity yesterday, what did we talk about? Is that the company gives up its ownership, right? The company gives up its ownership to get money into the company, right? But whereas when we talk about fixed income, right, here the company is asking for a loan. Okay, it's asking for a loan, and because of that, they're not giving out their ownership. Okay, now let's look at the definition of fixed income securities. Okay, so fixed income securities are a type of debt instrument that provides returns in the form of regular or fixed interest payments and repayment of the principal when the security reaches maturity. Okay, and fixed income securities are issued by central and state governments, public bodies, banks, and financial institutions, as well as corporate bodies. Okay, is this clear with everyone? The definition of fixed income securities. So it's a type of debt instrument. Okay, is this clear? Now let's look at. Okay, let me get out this drawing tool. One sec. Okay. Okay. Now, if you guys look at this, right, ignore the badly colored drawn box, but what is this essentially? When you look at this, right, this is how a bond looks like. Okay, this is how a bond looks like. Okay, so this $1,000, 8%, 10 years annual payment. What do you think it means?
So coupon payments are 8% and maturity is for 10 years.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right, now let me break this down for you, okay? So first of all the details in the inside the box is called as a bond indenture, and that does not change, okay? Because that's what the company is issued, right? So you cannot go in and change the percentage, you cannot change the payment schedule or the maturity or the face value, okay? Now, what is now let's again look at what is inside the box. So $1,000 is basically the face value. Okay. Now, if you wanted to buy this bond, you would have to pay $1,000. Okay. So you give me $1,000, I give you a piece of paper saying that, hey, I borrowed $1,000 from you, and because you borrowed $1,000 from me, I am going to pay you an 8% coupon for the next 10 years. Okay, I'm going to pay 8% per year for the next 10 years, okay, which is the maturity. Now, what does the annual payment mean? It means the frequency at which the 8% will be paid. Okay, now how does this look like, right? Is the payments can be given out quarterly, semi-annually, and yearly. Okay, now if it's quarterly, what is it? It's 8% divided by 4. Okay, and if it's semi-annually, it's 8% divided by 2, and if it's yearly, it's 8% divided by 1. Okay, now how does an annual payment look like? $1,000 into 8%, you get $80. Okay, and a quarterly payment is what? $1,000 into 8% divided by 4. Okay, so $20 is what you'll get per quarter. Okay, and then semi-annually is what you get, $40 every 6 months. Okay, semi-annually. Okay, is this clear with everyone? Yeah. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Okay. All right. So take a minute and write this down and let me know when you're done, and then we'll move on to the next thing. All right. Everybody done? Okay. Any questions? Sorry, I'm just looking at it. No, Dipesh, it should always be four, right? Because there's 4 quarters in a year, right? All right. Now let's move on. Okay. Now, if anybody can tell me what will happen at the time of maturity.
$1,000 will be returned.
True. Okay, good. So what happens is at the time of maturity, which is 10 years from now, you will get your principal back of $1,000. Okay, and essentially, if you look at it, right, because you're getting 8% every year, so it is $80 into 10 years. Okay, you'll get $800 plus $1,000. So your total is you're going to get $1,800. Okay, now if we were trying to figure out what is the return on investment, what would be the return on investment on this, your ROI, for the full 10 years? Correct. Okay, it's correct what Biswajit mentioned. It's 80% ROI. Now, is that a pretty good return? 80%? Uh, in a 10-year period, it looks great, 80%, right? But on a yearly basis, it's around 8%. So your bank FDs itself is giving around 6-7%. Okay, so it is an average, it's a very safe instrument, right? So the returns are okay. Yeah, it's okay. But here's the again the parallel to it, right? Is that the equity market, right? There are certain stocks. Okay, I think all of you would have heard of this Bajaj. Bajaj Finance. They do these consumer loans, right? Do you believe it or not, that particular company, right, has given investors from the time of IPO to maybe I think last year 2,500% return on investment. Yeah, Bajaj Finance, 2,500% return. Yeah, yeah. So that is the thing with the equity markets, right? The returns is unpredictable. So now here it really depends on you and your personality, right? Because see, some of the equity stuff will give you like 0% return, or it might give you 2,500% return. But if you look at fixed income, you're guaranteed that 8% return or that 80% over the next 10 years, no matter what, right? So it really depends on you and your risk taking abilities. Okay, is this clear with everyone? I'm not sure, Biswajit. I think around 4 or 5 years it gave 2,500. Okay, cool. Now let's move on. Now let's talk about what are the advantages of owning a fixed income security. Can anybody tell me? Okay, so the fixed income itself is this thing. So Divesh, my answer question is, what are the advantages of fixed income security? Okay, all right. Well, so but Biswajit, I wouldn't say no fluctuations. There are fluctuations, but the volatility is quite low. Okay, as compared to equity. Okay, all right. Now let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of fixed income security. Okay, so it has lower risk. Okay, higher yields. Now yields is what? Nothing but your return on investment. Okay, there's a set maturity, there's a large variety, so we'll discuss quite a few of the different kinds of bonds that are available in the market. It gives you reliable income and it is very, very liquid. Okay, it's very, very liquid. Okay, now for our program, right, we will talk about three different types of fixed income securities. Okay, first we'll talk about bonds, then we'll talk about MBS and ABS, mortgage-backed securities and asset-backed securities. Okay. Any questions on the
So,
advantages?
yes, so like one doubt.
Uh-huh.
So when you say higher yields, but it's since it's a fixed, you'll get the same amount that is you're supposed to receive in the end, right?
Well, not yeah, you're correct. But what happens is, when a bond, right, trades in the secondary market, we'll talk about this in a bit. Okay, is that a bond can also be trading at a discount, so you can buy the bond lesser than the face value, but you'd still earn the interest based on the face value. So your return becomes a little bit higher than basically your yields are becomes better and becomes higher because you're able to buy those bonds at a discount.
All right, all right. Thank
Yeah.
you, sir.
So don't worry, we'll cover it in a bit. Okay. So let's get through some of the stuff and we'll do some calculations and then you'll understand.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. Cool. So, well, there are disadvantages. Right. One second. Mm, advantages. Okay. Fixed. Okay. So you have what we call as an interest rate disadvantage. Okay, that's also there. What else is there? Then there could be that we'll talk about this in the second half of level 2, right? So there can be a delay in payment of coupon and or principal. Okay, so all of those things are also a disadvantage. Okay. All right, and the different types of more fixed income securities that we'll talk about is bonds, mortgage-backed securities, and asset-backed securities. I'm not able to spell mortgage properly. Mortgage. No. Okay, let me get more. Thank you, Vibor. I'm not able to. Okay, okay, okay. I got it now. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. I don't know, a little bit brain dead, so not able to spell mortgage-backed securities, mortgage properly. Okay, cool. All right, so write this down, advantages and disadvantages. Then we will get in depth for bonds, and then we'll discuss MBS and ABS. Okay, so start writing and let me know when you're done.
So anytime we can exchange bonds for cash before maturity period.
Yes, Deepesh, you can do that. You can basically sell your bond in the secondary market, and you can get the cash back.
And so what is liquidity means in
Basically you
this
can sell
security?
off the bond pretty much any time. See, when you talk about equity, right, if now let's say the company is in a bad state, a lot of investors would not want to buy equity share, like for example Yes Bank, right? So there are a lot of
Yeah.
investors who wanted to sell it but there are not enough buyers, right? But when we talk about fixed
Okay.
income securities, more or less there are going to be always liquidity. Basically there are always going to be some buyer who's willing to buy that fixed income security from you.
Okay. And then what is reliable income? It means which is fixed or okay.
Yeah, that's the
Yes.
fixed interest. The reliable income is the fixed interest rate.
It's interest. Okay. Thank you so much.
No worries. Okay, cool. All right. Now let's talk about bonds. Okay, let's talk about bonds. Okay. So what are bonds? Okay, so bonds are debt instruments issued for a period of more than 1 year with the purpose of raising capital by borrowing. Okay, so that's what we mean by a bond. Okay, now the bonds have different maturities. Okay, so short-term bond is between 1 to 5 years. A medium-term bond is 5 to 15 years, and long-term bonds are over 15 years. Okay, now, there are certain governments, right, especially in Europe, right, they have also issued 100-year-old bonds, 100-year bond maturities. Okay, so you can have as small as 1 year up to 100 years of a bond. Yeah. Mirnaik, I didn't understand. What do you mean? Okay, UK issued consoles. Okay, all right. So 100-year bond maturities. Okay, or century bonds. Okay. Century bonds, that I know. I didn't understand what you said by consoles. Okay. So are we clear? What is a bond? It's a debt instrument issued for more than 1 year for by raising capital. Okay, by borrowing. Okay. Now the categories are short term, medium term, and long term. All right. Now, if I were to ask you guys a very basic question, what are the different types of bonds? What would you say?
Sovereign bond, supranational bonds.
So those are well, you're right, but those are the different categories of bonds. Okay, but when you talk about at a very basic level, right, there are only two types of bonds. Okay, and that is
Town bonds, different bonds.
so yeah, so it is secured bonds and unsecured bonds. Okay, now what do we mean by secured bonds? Okay, is that the bond is tied to an asset of the company. Now let's be clear with this idea of secured, right? So if I'm a company, I issue a bond, okay, and I say that this bond that I issued to you is tied to the building that I currently own. So what happens is that in case I default in paying this money to you, the amount that I borrowed from you guys, then what happens is that you have the legal right over the building, over my building. So what happens is that we'll sell out the building, and whatever money comes or gets generated from that sale will go back to you guys. Okay, will be going back to as you that money will go back to you to pay off the debt. Okay, now on the flip side, when you have unsecured bonds, this bond is not tied to any asset of the company. Okay, no, it's not same as a mortgage. Well, you can loosely think about it as a mortgage. Yeah, you are right. Is that when you buy a house, what happens is that you take it on loan, and then in case you don't pay the EMI, they come and confiscate your house, right? Okay, so you can consider it as a mortgage, but make sure that you don't use that term mortgage when you're talking about what do you call fixed income securities. Okay. All right. So let me repeat again. So bonds are debt instruments issued for a period of more than 1 year with the purpose of raising capital. Okay. Now they're issued from 5 to 15 years till up to even 100 years. Okay. Now essentially there are two types of bonds. Okay. Secured bonds and unsecured bonds. Now secured bonds means that it is tied to an asset of the company. All right. So basically that bond that I issue is linked to an asset that I own. So in case I default in paying, the asset gets sold, and that money that is generated out of that sale of the asset, that money will be given back to you, right? And then we have unsecured bonds. So this is not tied to any asset of the company. Okay. Yeah, Hema. Largely mortgage refers to a real estate. All right. All right. Now take a minute and write this down, and then we'll move on and talk about the different categories and different sets of bonds that are there. right, cool. Everybody done? Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. All right, cool. Now let's talk about the various types of bonds. Okay. Now the first one is what we call as a corporate bond. Okay. Now it is a bond issued by a corporation, that is companies like Apple, Microsoft, Infosys, Reliance, etc. Okay. And they are often listed on major exchanges, and the coupon is generally taxable. Okay. This is what we mean by a corporate bond. Okay. Is this clear with everyone? So we're going to talk about 8 to 10 different types of bonds. Okay. So what you guys need to know, right, is the features of these bonds. Okay. All right. The next one is government bonds. Okay. It's issued by central or state government or even a municipal. Okay. What is municipal?
Local.
Local. Okay. Yeah. So something like the electricity board or the water board of whatever region you are from, right? So and some of the government bonds are also tax free. Like I think in India, the uh, I don't know if it's still there, but the National Highway Authority NHAI bonds, I think they are tax free, right? Okay, they're still tax free. Okay, good. Okay, so that's tax free. Okay. Now, the next one is what we call as zero coupon bonds. Now, what does zero coupon bonds means is that there is no coupon, that percentage, there's no percentage attached to it. And basically it's issued at discount and redeemed at par. So $1,000, for example, bond is issued at 800, okay? And it will be redeemed at 1,000. So here, there is no concept of a coupon payment semi-annually or annually or even quarterly. So think about this. I'm a company, I issue a zero coupon bond. So I give you a piece of paper that has said, okay, here's I'm going to on this piece of paper it says $1,000, but I'm telling you, okay, you only pay me 800. Okay, so you give me 800, I give you 1,000. Okay, now when this bond matures, I will give you 1,000 back, right? So what happens is that $200 becomes your profit. Okay, is this clear with zero coupon bonds? Okay, are we clear with the first three? Corporate bonds, government bonds, and zero coupon bonds. Okay, all right. Okay, take a minute and write this down, and then we'll cover the next three. Sort of anybody can issue a zero coupon bond. Corporations can do it, governments can do it, state government, central government, etc. Anybody can do it.
Oh,
Okay, cool. Let's move on. Okay, any doubts up to now? So we talked about corporate bonds, we talked about government bonds and zero coupon bonds. Okay, so again, corporate bonds are issued by corporations. Okay, large organizations. Government bonds are uh, government bonds are issued by either central or state government or even a municipal. Okay, zero coupon is issued at discount and redeemed at par. Okay. All right, now let's look at the next two. All right, so next one is what we call as junk bonds. Okay, so when we talk about junk bonds, right, these are unsecured bonds from companies with poor credit ratings. Okay, and convertible bonds is you can convert a specific number of shares at the time of maturity. So each convertible bond, let's say, is equal to 100 equity shares. And let's say that you own 10 convertible bonds. So what happens is that at the time of maturity, you will get 10 into 100. So you will get 1000 shares. Okay, is this clear? And are you guys all clear about what is the credit rating agency and all of that? They essentially give you rank you or provide you with a credit rating, saying that whether you are very safe to do business with or not. Okay, so write down these two because the next one is a bit of calculations. Okay, write this two down: junk bonds and convertible bonds. Any doubts? Yeah, the page like credit score, but they call it as a credit rating. So Besujit, the reason why somebody would go for a junk bond, right, is that basically the coupon that you receive will be higher as compared to the corporate bonds or government bonds. Okay, basically your return will be much higher. Uh, okay, so for junk bonds, right? Uh, the reason why an investor would invest in junk bonds is the coupon payment will be higher than the other types of bonds. Okay, now let's say that a government, like let's say a corporate issues a 6% bond, but a junk bond, a company that is rated as a junk rated company, right? They can issue a 10% bond. Okay, all right.
Sir, sir, I have a question. Sir, it means junk bonds are issued at higher interest rate than corporate bonds. It means.
Sorry, yeah. So that's what I'm saying is that the interest rate will be higher than the other types of bonds.
So, sir, everyone is going for buying junk bonds, other rather than buying corporate
No, no,
bonds or
no,
government
no.
bonds.
No, no, not like that. See, guys, one thing, please be clear. Just because the interest rate is higher, that doesn't mean everyone goes and buys it. There's a risk associated with everything. So if you're comfortable with that risk, then you will buy it. But if you're not comfortable with that risk, you will not buy it. Okay. So
Okay, thank
Hema, yeah, sure. Hema, regarding your question, right? So give me some time. We'll get to the relationship between interest rates and bond prices, and you will understand. Yeah, we'll come to it. Yeah, Deepesh. So if it's higher risk, it means higher returns. But a junk bond, if they default, right, maybe you don't get your money back. Okay, everybody done? Okay. All right. So let's go to the next one. So next one is a little bit of calculations. So please pay close attention. Okay. So the next one is what we call as inflation index bonds. Okay. Now, what does this mean is that it's where the principal and interest is tied to the inflation rate of the country. Okay, where the principal and interest is tied to the inflation rate of the country. Okay, and it is issued by the government. Okay, it is issued by the government and it's not issued by the corporates or anybody else. Okay. Saurabh, it's fine that if you lose your audio connection, you can log back, log out, and log in. Anyway, I'll send you guys the recorded classes anyway, right? And you guys are able to view them and no problems, right? Okay, cool. Now let's look at this example, okay? Please pay careful attention. Okay, so now let's say that government of India, or let's say the US government or whatever it is, issues $1,000 bond with 6% as the interest and annual payment, and it's issued for 3 years. Okay, now what happens is that, so you look what it says, the principal and interest is tied to the inflation rate of the country. Okay, now let's say in 2021 the inflation rate is 8%. Okay, so what's going to happen is that, look, principal will get adjusted. So if the inflation rate is 8%, so you're going to multiply 1,000 into 8%, so you'll get 1,080 as your new face value. Okay, then you're going to multiply that 1,080 into 6%, and the coupon you get will be 64.8. Okay, is this clear with everyone on the 2021? What about the others? I think there's like only 4 people who are actually like responding. The others are not. Okay, cool. Okay, all right. So now let's say in 2022 the inflation rate goes to 10%. Okay, then what happens? The face value $1,000 is multiplied into 10%, and you have a new face value of 1,100. Now you take that 1,100 and you multiply it by 6%. So your interest rate does not change. Okay, but what does happen is the principal keeps changing based on the inflation rate. Okay, and then in this case you end up making $66 as a coupon amount. Okay, now let's say in 2023 the inflation rate is 4%. Okay, now if it becomes 4%, you will only still pay 6%. Okay, so you will not going to recalculate it if the inflation rate comes below the interest rate. Okay, you will not recalculate the principal. So what happens is 1,000 into 6%, you will get $60. Okay, now one thing please understand, even though the numbers are going up and down, right, you're not making more money, you're not making additional profit. It's just that the coupon that you're receiving is on par with the inflation rate. Basically, you're not losing money to the inflation rate in the country. All right, is this clear with everyone? All right, take a minute and write this down.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So so this is mature. The maturity is after 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So if this inflates at different rates each year, so you calculate it, or you calculate the interest rate on the principal amount each year, or do you take the interest after accounting for inflation and calculate it with the new inflation rate the next year, the following year?
No, so like how I've done the example, right? So let me get this question correctly. Is that your sorry, say it again. Let me understand you better.
Yeah, so you're calculating inflation on the principal rate itself again, right? Not on the value after having accounted for the previous year's inflation rate.
No, I'm not doing that.
It's on. Okay, so it's on the principal value itself, depending on the inflation rate for that particular year.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Sir, I'm recently lost my connection. Then can you please recap the example once?
Okay, sure. Okay. So again, guys, the idea is same. Okay, and don't worry, classes are recorded, so you will get the video. Okay, so if a government issues an inflation index bond, it is issued to protect investors against inflation rate risk. Okay, now in the year 2021, if the inflation rate in the country is 8%, what you'll do is you'll recalculate the principal into 8%. So your new principal amount comes to 1080, that you multiply by 6%. So your coupon will be 64.8. All right, now in 2022, if the inflation rate goes up to 10%, right? So what's going to happen is that the new principal amount will be $1,100, and that will multiply into 6%. Okay. Now, in case the inflation rate comes below the interest rate, now for example 4%, right? Then what's happening is that the interest rate is anyway beating the inflation rate, right? So you don't have to hedge yourself against that, right? So what's going to happen is that you're just going to multiply that against the 6%, and the principal of 1000 stays the same. No, so Amol, the reason is that every year the inflation rates keep changing, right? So you are going to use what is the current inflation rate. You don't keep adding on to it. So Biswajit, that's what I'm
So,
saying.
sir,
If the
so
inflation
sir,
rate is Dipesh, tell
can
me.
you please? So it should be 1040. Then it should be multiplied by 6%.
That's what I'm telling you,
And
my friend.
2000.
No, please listen carefully. This is
Okay.
pretty straightforward. Is that in case the inflation rate comes below 6%, okay, now in this case inflation
Okay.
came 4%, then what is it? Are you're beating inflation, right? Yes or no? You're getting,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. So in those cases, you do not have to multiply it by the current inflation rate.
Okay, okay. I understand. Thank you so much, sir.
No problem. Biswajit, I didn't understand your question. If in 2024, if it's less than 10%, same is followed like 2023? No, guys, if it's less than 6%, then you will do the same thing as 2023. See, only if it goes below the interest rate, then you don't have to readjust it.
So if you could just explain the 2023 again, it's a little confusing, like how you got 60.
All right, it's the same thing, right? See, I'm just doing 1,000. Hang on. It's just this $1,000 into 6%. That's it. You get 60.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right. Let me know when you guys are done, and then we'll move on. Okay, cool. Okay, now let's look at the rest of them. Okay, so the next one is what we call as a perpetual bond. Okay, perpetual bond. Okay, now a perpetual bond is basically a bond that does not have any maturity. So perpetual is also known as forever. Okay, so perpetual bonds, they don't have any maturity, and the coupons will be paid as long as the company is in existence. Okay, the next one is what we call as a deferred bond. Perpetual. I've been spelling stuff wrong. Perpetual. That's correct. Deferred. Sorry, I generally. Uh, that's correct. No, deferred. Ah, Generally, I'm very good with my spelling, but I don't know. I'm not getting the right spelling today. Okay, so perpetual. Okay, so perpetual bonds are those bonds that have no maturity. They are forever. Okay, and the coupon payment you will get forever, or as long as the company is in existence. Now, deferred bonds is that the coupon payments will be paid at the time of maturity. All right, deferred bonds is that the coupon payments will be paid. So basically, when you talk about deferred bonds, right, that quarterly, semi-annually, or yearly payments will not happen. You will get paid one shot at the time of maturity. Okay. Thank you, Vibor. Perpetual. Sorry, I don't know. I am not able to spell things properly. I see. Perpetual bonds. and DFERRED. Okay, so when I'm in class, right, and I'm writing on the board and all of that, then it comes out easier because my hand knows the spelling more than my brain. But when I'm typing it, right, I sometimes, and there's no spell check on this. This is a using a notepad, right? Okay, it's cool. Thank you for correcting me. No, I'm wrong. Cool. So perpetual bonds is fine. Deferred bonds. So the coupon payment will be paid at the time of maturity. Okay. Now, a foreign currency bond can be issued by both governments and companies in a foreign currency in order to raise capital. Okay. Anybody know any of the foreign currency bonds? There's one famous bond that India has issued. Very good, Anurag. Correct. Masala bonds. Okay, so masala bonds, they are issued in the UK. All right. So basically, the government of India issued that, and do you know? So the reason why they issued it was that to take advantage of FX rates. Okay, so that when they raised the capital, they were able to convert all that GBP into rupee. Okay. The next one is what we call as callable bonds. Okay, now here the issuer, the company, has the right to call back the bonds before the maturity, and a premium is paid to the investors. Okay, a premium is paid to the investors to give back the bonds. Okay. Callable bonds. The issuer has the right to call back the bonds. Okay. Now, in puttable bond, the investor has the right to give the bond back to the issuer before maturity. Okay. Is this clear? Yes, no? Okay. So, what you guys need to know is the features of these bonds. Okay. You just need to know the features of these bonds. Okay. Ganesh, which one did you miss? Okay, so callable and puttable means that the issuer has the right to call the bond. Okay, meaning that, so if I'm a company, I issue a bond, I can, and you're the investor, Ganesh, I can call the bond back, or I can ask you to pay the bond back before maturity. Now, why will you pay? Is because I'm going to pay you a premium, meaning that I'll pay you above the face value. Now, in puttable bond, you approach me and say, you know what, Rashid, I want to give the bonds back to you. I want my money back. Okay. Now, in puttable bond, I will not give you a premium. Okay. I will not give you a premium for it. Okay. So whatever is the face value, I'll give you only that. Okay. Cool. Okay. Take a minute and write this down, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, cool, Shreya. I will have a look at it. Did you like the assignment? Okay, yeah, yeah. Send it after class, no problem. So Saurabh, is everybody else done? Okay. Saurabh, once you log in, right? I think it's under products, and you have to scroll down, and you'll find assignment on cash, equity, financial system, etc. There will be something called as assignment, and you just have to click on that. And you'll have 15 questions. All right, everybody done? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next part, yeah, so Shreya, the assignments, right? They will be tallied finally, and it will roll up into your certification. So, guys, I'm very strict on this part across all these centers, right? Wherever you are studying right now, right? Is You have to finish those assignments, okay? And those assignments will roll up, and it will help in tiering you guys, okay? Tiering. Remember T1, T2, T3, right? And I'll tell you guys that if you don't do those assignments right, I can pretty much guarantee that you are not going to do well in this program. Okay, please make sure that you finish all your assignments within the allotted time. Okay, cool.
Rakshit,
Yes, Ganesh.
I mean, in that book, what you're specifying, are we supposed to finish the presentation and everything, or just the assignments? Is that fine?
No, so you see the soft skills, so there's a lot of stuff on that, right? So some are just videos and all of that. So I recommend that you also watch some of the videos and all of that. But from a domain perspective, you should do all the assignments.
No, I mean, yeah, with that, but I just finished the assignment like 1 second. Let me tell you. So yeah, coming to the courses, I mean, this CIBOP. So an introduction to IB and financial system. There is one assignment.
Yeah.
So I have finished that. So you want me to watch, I mean, basics of financial systems, role of market participants, and class presentation of investment banking, the PPT and all, and quiz all this.
So yeah, you will have to. So it's up to you if you want to watch the videos, but the PPTs is mandatory, and the quiz we will do later. I'll tell you when to do the quiz.
Okay. So PPT and the assignments are mandatory, right?
Yes, yes. Okay.
That's what. Why? Because when I just saw it was still showing the red, like finish level. So I just wanted to confirm it.
Okay, cool. Okay. All right, cool. Let's move on now. Okay, so now the next thing that we're going to talk about is risks associated with bonds. Okay, now when bonds are issued, right, they can be issued, generally they're issued at discount, at par, or at premium. Okay, now what does it mean is that if I say it's issued at discount, the face value is still $1,000, but it will be issued at 800. Okay, and if I say it's par, it'll be issued at $1,000 only. Okay, and if I say premium, right, it'll be issued above the face value, which is 1,200. Is this clear with everyone? Okay. All right. Now let's understand the next part, okay, which is equally important, okay. And this one, what I'm going to talk about next is a standard interview question, okay. No. So Jackson, that in the money, at the money, and all of that, that is in relation to options. It's not in relation to bonds. That's a separate topic that we'll talk about. Okay. All right. Now, what's the relationship between interest rates and bond prices? Okay. The straightforward answer is it's an inverse relationship, meaning that if the interest rates go up, the bond prices come down, and if the interest rates go down, the bond prices come up. Now, the factor that influences the bond price is the interest rates. Okay, so only if the interest rates move up and down will the bond prices change. Okay, is this clear with everyone? Okay, give me 1 second. I will pull up an example. Yeah, Shubham, that's what I'm doing. 1 second. Okay, so when we talk about the relationship between interest rates and bond prices, right, is that they have an inverse relationship. So if the interest rates in the market go up, the bond prices will come down. And if the interest rates in the market go down, the bond prices will come up. Okay, now let's take an example. Okay, now company A has issued a bond in 2019 for 5%. Okay, at 5%, they've issued a bond. Okay, now in 2020, the market interest rate goes up to 8%. Okay, 8%. So what will happen to company A bonds is that the company A bonds will start trading at a discount. Okay, now why does it start trading at a discount is that what happens is that now company B, when they issue a bond in 2020, they will issue it at 8%. Now, if you're an investor, what would you prefer, a 5% coupon or an 8% coupon? Right? So we all would prefer the 8% coupon, right? So that is the reason why, to make company A bonds competitive in the market, the bond prices will go down and they'll start trading at a discount. Okay. Now on the flip side, let's say in 2021, okay, the interest rate in the market goes down to 3%. Then what will happen is that company A bonds will start trading at a premium. Basically, they'll be trading above the face value at 1,200. Okay, is this clear with everyone? Let me say it one more time. Please listen carefully. The relationship between interest rates and bond prices has an inverse relationship, meaning that if the interest rates, so let me be more clear, is market interest rates go up, then the bond prices come down. Okay, and if the market interest rates go down, the bond prices come up. Okay, now let's say that company A issued a bond in 2019 at 5%. Okay, now in 2020 the market interest rate goes to 8%. Now company B, what will they issue? They will issue a bond at 8%. Now what will happen? All the investors say, hey, 8% is better than 5%, so they'll all run to that bond, right? But then how do you make company A bonds competitive? Is that the bonds will start trading at a discount. So what happens is that the bond, like people who want to buy the bond will only have to pay $800 instead of $1,000. Okay, now let's say that in 2021 market interest rate goes to 3%. Okay, then what happens is that the bond price of company A will start trading at a premium, basically at $1,200. Okay, is this clear with everyone? No, Sarnash, market interest rate is different and coupon rate is different. That's why I specifically said market interest rate. So market interest rate is the current interest rate in the market. Coupon rate is the coupon rate that at which the bond is issued. Okay, is this clear with everyone? Please take a minute and write this down. No, it's not about returns. We'll get to returns and all of that. This is the nature of bonds. This is how, see, let me tell you this way. When you talk about equity, right? When we talk about equity, the performance of a stock depends on economic factors, company performance, industry, all of that, right? Now, the same way for a bond, what affects its price, bond price, is interest rates.
Sir, I have a question in the chat box.
Okay. Because if market interest rate is higher than issued rate, that is why it will be traded at discount. Yes, correct. Everyone done? Okay, cool. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about, and see, one of the amazing things about bonds, right, is that you can calculate your ROI before you even buy a bond. Okay, you can calculate what is the return on investment before you even buy the bond. Okay, now one of the things that you can use to calculate that is what we call as yield to maturity, otherwise known as YTM. Okay, now what that means is that if you bought a bond and you hold it till maturity, what is your return? Okay, it's a very simple thing, because see, all the factors are there: the principal amount, interest rate, the tenure, the frequency of the payment period, everything is there, right? So you can actually calculate what is the return that you will get on a bond before you even buy it. Okay, so this is where a lot of the guys in front office and all of that, right, they will be able to take those decisions on whether they want to buy a bond or not. Okay, now I think I forget who, but somebody was asking me how can you get higher yields. Is because the idea is that if I can buy something at a discount, right, then but I'm still going to get paid based on the face value. So what will happen is that my yield will increase. Okay, my yield will increase. Okay, so that's why you can get higher yields. But now here's the other thing, right? In severe economic stress like what's happening now and all of that, right, your interest or your yield will actually become negative. Okay, you can also get lower yields and even negative yields. Okay, so that's also possible. Okay, so are we clear with this YTM concept? It refers to the total return on the bond if it's held till maturity. Yes, no? Okay, cool. All right. Now, so now let's talk about a few more things, obviously, right? So, I'll walk you guys through line by line. Okay, I've been typing all of this when you guys are writing. Okay, so first of all, all of this, what we're going to talk about is the secondary market. So we're still in the secondary market. Okay, secondary market for bonds. Okay. Now, one of the terms that, or a couple of the terms that you guys have to know is what we call as clean price and dirty price. Okay. Now, clean price is the price of the bond, or whatever is the current price of the bond in the market right now. Okay. And what is dirty price is that it is the price of the bond plus what you call as the accrued interest. Okay, accrued interest. Now I'm guessing that all of you know what is accrued interest, right? So it is interest that you've earned, but you have not received it. Okay. Now, how do you calculate accrued interest? Okay. Now, let's say that I bought a bond on Jan 1st, 2020 and sold the bond on 1st May 2020. Okay. And the face value is $1,000, 5%, and an annual payment. Okay. Now, since I already sold the bond in May 1st, will I get the coupon payment? Will I get the coupon payment? Correct. So, no, I will not get the coupon payment from the company because I already sold the bond before the coupon date. Now, when will I actually get this thing? In Jan 2021 is when I'll get the 5%. But if I sold it on May 1st, I'm not going to get the coupon payment. Okay. But now what has happened is that from Jan to May, I have accrued interest. Okay. Okay, I will have to figure out the accrued interest. Okay, now how do I do that is I need to find out how many days I held on to the bond. Okay, so January has 31, Feb 29, because this year we had a leap year, right? March 31 and April 30. Okay, so if you add all of that up, you get 121 days is the number of days I held on to the bond. Okay, is this clear with everyone? Okay, I held on to the bonds for 121 days. So I earned accrued interest for 121 days. Okay. Now, most of you guys would know, you might have come across what we call as a day count convention. Okay. Otherwise known as DCC. Okay. Now, there are four different types of DCC. The first one is when I say actual, right? Act, that means actual. That is the number of days I held the bond divided by 360. Okay, and that is one. Second one is actual by 365. The third one is that it assumes that every month has got 30 days. So Jan has 30, Feb has 30, March has 30, and April has 30. And when I say actual by actual, here this actual will change based on the number of days in the year. Okay, is this clear with everyone? So by using, now you do not have to use all four. Okay, you do not have to use all four. Rather, in the bond it will mention which DCC you will have to use. Okay, which DCC you will have to use. So if we use the first one, I earned 16.80 as the accrued interest. Now if I use 365, it's 16.57. If I use 30 by 360, it is 16.66. And if I use 121, okay, it is 366 days, it's 16.35. So this is the accrued interest, basically the interest that I earned for 121 days. Is this clear with everyone? Okay, simple. We're doing simple interest calculations. Okay, not doing difficult stuff. Okay. Now, what is this next going to be is that, so let's say the clean price of the bond is $1,000. Okay, and I'm going to use the first one to calculate the accrued interest. So the AI is 16.80. So what is the total dirty price? The dirty price is 1,016.80, and the buyer of the bond, the person who's buying this bond from me, will pay the dirty price. All right, is this clear with everyone? Not difficult at all. So clean price is the price of the bond. Dirty price is the price plus the accrued interest. And how do you calculate accrued interest? By same thing, simple interest calculation. Principal into interest rate into rate, into rate into time, right? So now you have four different types of DCCs, day count conventions: 360, 365, 30 by 360, and actual by actual. Now you do not use all four, please be clear. You will only use one. You do not have to guess. It will be mentioned in the bond. Okay. So then what we do is that we figure out the dirty price. So which will be clean price is 1,000 plus accrued interest 16.80. So that will give 1,016.80 as the dirty price. So the buyer of the bond will pay dirty price. All right, cool. Take a minute and write this down. It is not confusing, so don't confuse yourself as well. It's pretty straightforward. Dipesh, it's for 4 months, no? So every month, when you use 30 by 360, every month is 30 days. So Jan 30, Feb 60, March 90, April 120. So Jackson, why it's 120 is that it when you use 30 by 360 assumes that each month is 30 days. So Jan will be 30, Feb 30, March 30, April 30. So 30, 60, 90, 120. All right, cool. Majority are done. Okay, cool. All right, now let's talk about the other types of fixed income securities. Okay, 1 second. Okay. So when we talk about other types of fixed income securities, right? So you have mortgage-backed securities and asset-backed securities. Now, when we talk about mortgage-backed securities, right, it is linked to a home loan, and the MBS is what caused the 2008 financial crisis. Okay. Now, again, I mean, it's what been 12 years since the 2008 financial crisis, right? but still it has had a very deep impact in the financial markets. Again, we'll talk more about it in level second half of level 1 and level 2 and 3, right? So I don't know if you guys know about the 2008 financial crisis, but what I would like you guys to do, and it's a bit of homework, right, is that on YouTube there's a video called Crisis of Credit. It's called as Crisis of Credit. And what you and your write up is that what your homework is, you're going to do a write up on your understanding of the 2008 financial crisis. Okay, so that is the first of your fixed income securities. So it's basically linked to home loans. Okay. Now, when you talk about ABS, or otherwise known as asset-backed securities, okay, don't think about assets as in the terms of like plant or machinery and all of that, right? So it is basically linked to the other types of loans like personal loans, credit card loans, education loans, etc. Okay, and vehicle loans. Okay, that is the main difference between MBS and ABS. Okay, ABS is linked to the home loans, and ABS is linked to other types of loans. Okay, all right. Yes, the American Great Recession. Well, it happened not only in America, it happened in India as well, right? Because see, because of globalization, all the countries are connected together. So if one market suffers, especially the US market, because it's the leader, right? If that market crashes, basically the rest of the markets will also crash. Okay, all right. So are we clear with this? MBS and ABS. Okay, and I want you guys to watch this video on YouTube called Crisis of Credit. It's a quick 14-15 minute video, and I want you to do a write up on your understanding. Now, I want you guys to write it in your own words. Okay, I don't want you to copy paste from the internet, then you're not going to really learn anything, right? Like for example, right, in my weekday batch, so I generally give this as an assignment to the students so that they understand the 2008 financial crisis. Okay, one person has copy pasted the entire understanding from Wikipedia. All right. So if that was the case, then and what I did was that I remembered that person and I made a note. And then when we have your vivas, right, I asked them to explain to me the 2008 financial crisis, and the person could not answer a single question. Right. So you guys need to write in your own words, and you need to understand what it is. Okay, it's very important. Okay. All right. So MBS, ABS, is that clear with everyone? MBS is linked to home loans, okay, or real estate in general. ABS is linked to other types of loans, personal loans, credit cards, education, vehicle loans, okay? All right. Now, the last part is again, so when we link, so what links this MBS and ABS is what we call as securitization, okay? Now, what is securitization is that it is a process. Okay, now this process is done through what we call as financial engineering, okay, of converting illiquid assets to a marketable and tradable asset. Okay, now what does that mean is that, now let's say that I have 25 home loans. Okay, let's say all of us. Okay, now I want to convert this into a mortgage backed security. Okay, now I'm going to use securitization, the process of securitization. Okay, now in securitization, basically it's a process, right, of using financial engineering. Okay, financial engineering. And what am I going to do is that I'm going to convert this 25 home loans into a mortgage backed security. Okay, is that clear with everyone? Okay, so securitization is the process through financial engineering to convert illiquid assets to a tradable or marketable security. Okay, so take a minute and write this down, and then actually that's pretty much it for today. All right, not pretty much, that is it for today. So if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. In the meantime, let me just take attendance. Okay. Uh, is it I don't know, Sarah or Sarna? I don't know. Is it Sarah? Is that
Saransh.
Saransh? Sorry. Is that the way you spell
Yeah.
it? Saransh. Okay, cool. Yeah. Is this your first class? Are you from?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, fine. I have given my email ID. So this is my email ID. Okay. So you can handwrite it, or you can even type it up and send it to me.
Okay. And this is to be submitted by next week.
No, no, no. It'll take you half an hour, maybe by tomorrow or Tuesday max. Okay, no, let's say
Okay.
tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Okay.
It won't take you long, my friend. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Okay. So, Shreya, good question. So, how is it used as a fixed income? Is that, see, these 25 home loans have a fixed interest, or it has an interest rate attached to it, right? Now so how this happens is that the homeowner who has bought the house, right? When they pay the EMI, they're paying basically the interest, right? Now the interest, instead of going to the to the retail bank, it is actually going to the person who's holding on to the mortgage-backed security, right? It's the person who's going holding on to the mortgage-backed security. So they will get a fixed return based on the amount of home loans that they own. Okay. All right. So I'll stop your recording here.